Okay, so it is Wednesday, January 27th, 2021, and this is for Regional Cuisine. We are just finishing up our last week of the semester, so this is our last cooking demo of this course before we move on to international food soon. So we are finishing up our last unit we started last week, which is the Northwest states. So in honor of that region, we are doing the Montana Monster Cookies today. So you can have something a little sweet, but it's a really good hearty cookie, right? That's full of oats and peanut butter, some chocolate. But the best part about it is that it's a cookie that is gluten-free. So this is a flourless cookie that I'm gonna show you guys today. And so the oats are gonna give us our structure. So you can't leave those out. But like I said, if somebody who can't have gluten, this is a great alternative. And it's a really good cookie, right? It doesn't taste like a gluten-free cookie. Okay, so we're going to start off with our large mixing bowl, and we're going to start with our eggs. So this is kind of what we call like a dump recipe. So everything gets dumped into one bowl as we go. So we're going to start off with our large bowl and our wooden spoon. So you want a nice heavy wooden spoon or a real good sturdy spatula, because we're going to need to do some really tough mixing on this because it starts off loose, but it's going to end up as a really thick batter. Okay, so we're going to start with 3 large eggs, so whole eggs. And I've got a little dish here on the side that I'm going to crack into, because I want to make sure as I'm adding these in that I don't have any eggs that are bad, right? So we crack it on our flat surface, the counter. Check each egg as it goes in.
Miss, how do you know when an egg is bad?
You'll see it like blood spots and things on it. This is also a good way to make sure you don't get any egg shells inside either, okay? So we check each one as they go in, because if our third egg was bad and we put them all in the same bowl at first, then we'd have to start all over with new eggs, right? We don't want to waste ingredients. So third one looks good. No blood spots, no shells, so we're good to go. So then we're going to start with adding some sugar, right? Because we're going to have some sweetness to this. So we're going to use both brown sugar, a light brown sugar, and our white granulated sugar, okay? So we're going to do 1 cup of each. So with the brown sugar, you want to make sure that you're packing this into that measuring cup, right? So we want to get in this bag. We're going to use the bag to press that in, okay? We don't need to do that with the granulated sugar, but we want to make sure we get a full packed cup of the brown sugar. That's why I'm using the bag, so I don't have to stick my hand in there, right, and get a nice level cup. So we're going to add
between like regular, like when you just put brown sugar in a cup, and like lightly packed or fully packed.
If it's not packed down well, you may not get enough. So because it creates the brown sugar, because it is so thick, will create air pockets. So this way we make sure we get a true 1 cup measure of our brown sugar. Then we're going to add in white granulated sugar, so the same kind of sugar you'd put in your coffee, right? So a cup of that to our 3 eggs. So we got 1 cup brown sugar, 1 cup white sugar, and our 3 large eggs. Just gonna start creaming this up a little bit. Now that sugar starting to get dissolved as we go, okay? And then now we're going to go to our vanilla. So we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. It's going to help give us some flavor. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of corn syrup, which is not a typical cookie recipe. It is in some, but the corn syrup will help give us a little bit of browning with these oats. But if you don't have it, you could always leave it out. It's only a teaspoon worth of the corn syrup. So we've got our teaspoon of vanilla, our teaspoon of corn syrup. And then we're going to add in a 1/2 cup of butter to this, right? So we've got our sugar, eggs, vanilla, corn syrup. Now we're going to add in some butter to cream this together. So this has been sitting out. This is softened. You don't want melted butter. You want softened butter. And it'll look like you'll see some big chunks for a little while, but once we get the oats mixed in there with this, those will easily blend everything together, right? That friction of stirring the oats into this. So
how can you tell if it's softened?
Because it's been sitting out on the counter all day. Smooshy, right? So if you can just squish it. So what we're going to do with our stick of butter is just slice this down into some chunks and add that into our bowl instead of trying to stir in a whole stick. We just want to break this up into some little bits. You can do this with a butter knife. It doesn't have to be a sharp knife. It's soft enough. So you let the, if you're going to make cookies that day, pull the butter out on the counter in the morning. You can pull it out the night before. It won't hurt it any. Right? Butter does not have to be in the refrigerator the whole time. It can sit out to soften, especially for making, things like cookies and stuff like that. You want to have, if you had really super cold butter, it will never mix in, right? So worst case is if you forget to soften your butter, you can soften it up in the microwave, but just do it like 10, 15 seconds at a time on like 50% power. Because you don't want to melt it. We just want to soften. So what I'm going to do is with the back of my wooden spoon is use that to press up against the side of the bowl. And we want to start to smush our little butter pats. Like I said, this will all get blended in as we add in our oats and our other ingredients. So I'm just trying to loosen it up a little bit, get them started, right? Like I said, you'll still see it's pretty chunky, but that'll go away once we get all our other things in. All right. So now we're going to add in some peanut butter. Okay. So you can use for this, creamy style peanut butter, whatever your favorite brand is, right? You can use chunky peanut butter as well. It'll just give you a little extra crunch in your cookie. Okay, so if that's the one that you prefer, that's fine. I'm using smooth creamy style today. So it's 1.5 cups total. And I already pre-measured this out just to save us a little time. So 1 full cup and 1/2 cup. Okay. So make sure you have both. Like I said, and this is going to be really soft looking batter at first until we add those oats in. So it's going to look like a big bowl of peanut butter. And so there's our 1 cup. Now we're going to add in our 1/2 cup. So if you've got a lot of peanut butter sitting around in your house you haven't been eating, this is a good way to use it up. Get some on sale. Get some leftover from your holiday baking season. So we're going to really mix this in. You could use an electric mixer to do these cookies. You'll be just fine doing it by hand. Like I said, that butter will break down and melt itself in, just the friction of all the stirring that we're going to still have to do. Okay. So I said, so it looks like a giant bowl of peanut butter at this point. Some little butter chunks, but those will get broken up. So now we're going to need to add in some baking soda, right? So we need to have a little bit of a leavening agent to give us some rise to our cookies, right? So baking soda, the one that comes in the box, right? Not the little can of baking powder, so make sure you've got the right one. So we're going to do 2 level teaspoons of our baking soda. Okay, 1, and we got 2. Okay, so that's going to give us our little bit of rise to our cookies. Okay.
Miss, what state is this?
So these are Montana Monster cookies. So this is a Montana recipe. We talked about Montana in class last week. Our top 10 list. So we've got that baking soda stirred in. Right, like I said, I can still see some little bits of butter in here. That's okay. Those are all going to get worked out right now when I add the oats in. Right? So it tells you 4 cups of oatmeal, but you want to go with quick oats. Okay? These will break down quicker and they're going to absorb the moisture of this batter a lot faster than like our rolled cut oats. So I've already got measured out 4 cups, right? Because this is going to be our structure of the cookie. Because right now, we don't have any structure. We just got gooey peanut butter mix, right? So we need something to actually be able to scoop. So I'm going to put in half of the oats at a time, okay? And that's just going to make it a little bit easier to stir so they don't splash out everywhere. But this is when it's going to start to get really thick really fast. And that butter will really start to break down now because of the friction of the oats and your wooden spoon. So I said, you want a really sturdy wooden spoon when you're doing this, something that's not going to easily break, because this ends up being an extremely thick batter. So it's starting to come together now, you can see. Ready? Now I'm breaking up any of those last little bits of butter that you might see. Right, and it's getting there, but it's not quite yet. So we're going to add in those other 2 cups of oats. And this is where it starts to get tough, right? This is when you got to use those muscles. So don't be afraid to stir it. You know, you got to be a little bit aggressive. It is a very thick, pasty kind of dough, right? If you get tired, switch hands. Grab another person in the house. Be like, come help me mix. Especially if they want to eat the cookies, they can do some of the labor. Right. So what we're looking for is that we don't want to have any, you know, dry spots of oats mixed in here. We want to make sure that it's all covered with our peanut butter mixture. So really scrape the sides of the bowl. And don't forget the bottom of the bowl, right? Kind of flip things over. Make sure that it's getting well blended, right? And now you can see that difference, right? Look at how thick that is. Doesn't even shake off the spoon, right? So we got 2 more ingredients that are going in this. You could just leave them and stop at this point and have a really beautiful peanut butter oatmeal cookie, right? But we want to add a little bit of pizzazz to it. So we're going to add some chocolate. So we've got some semi-sweet chocolate chips. So we're going to do a 1/2 cup of those. And some M&Ms. All right, so 1/2 cup of chocolate chips. And you can mix these out, use white chocolate chips. You can use peanut butter chips, dark chocolate chips, whatever you've got on hand. Especially if I said this is a good way to use up some leftover baking ingredients. And then we're going to do a 1/2 cup of just plain M&Ms. But you could use the peanut ones, the peanut butter ones, whichever's your favorite. That's going to add a little bit of crunch with a candy shell. It's going to add the sweetness of the chocolate. And it's going to add some color. Okay. So this is going to really stir. You want to make sure we're getting those candies mixed all the way through. So every cookie that we scoop has a little bit of chocolate chip, has a little bit of M&M. It's always disappointing when you get that one cookie that has like 2 chocolate chips in it. Right? We don't want that. Have nice, well-mixed cookies. Okay. All right, so now you can see that batter, right? Super thick. Give it another quick check, right? Make sure we don't have any dry spots or anything like that. Like I said, it's super, super thick, which is what we want, because we want to be able to scoop this. Now, you can do this with just spoons. We're going to do it today with a cookie scoop, just to make it a little bit easier. All right. And we've got our scoop here, and this is a pretty large size scoop, right? Fits, you know, like the palm of my hand. You could use a couple of big spoons from your kitchen, you know, drawer, tablespoons and things like that. That's fine as well if you don't have a scoop. But the reason why we're using a scoop is we want to have our cookies as uniform as possible. Okay? So we want to have them the same size, so when they bake, they're finished in the same amount of time. So I've already got my oven set on 350 degrees for this. It's already preheated, so these can go straight into the oven. So these are cookies that the dough does not have to be refrigerated or chilled first. They can go straight in the oven. So when I'm scooping this, I'm pressing that in really good, and I'm scraping on the edge of the bowl to get it nice and flat on the bottom. Okay. And these will spread out some. So we want to leave some space in between, an inch or so. Do about 8 cookies on this tray. And these will take about 10 to 12 minutes in the oven. I'm going to show you some that are already done. Okay, like that. So we're going to put these straight into the oven. Like I said 350 degrees, about 10 to 12 minutes. So we're gonna check, I'll check this tray, start checking it usually when it tells you about that time, about 8 minutes, right? See if it needs to be turned, make sure they're browning evenly. So you wanna get these to a nice golden brown, which is what we've got right here. So these ones were done a little while ago, so they're cool now. So once these come out of the oven, you wanna let them sit on the tray, put it on top of your stove or on top of the cooling rack. Let them sit there another good 2-3 minutes. So that way they keep cooking just a little bit, but they'll solidify with each other and then they won't fall apart. So this is what you're looking for, right? Is a nice light golden brown color on the bottom, a little bit of golden brown on the top, right? Nice, soft, chewy cookie on the inside, okay? So these, you want to make sure that you don't overbake these, especially with oatmeal. You don't want them to get tough and chewy. You want something that is nice and soft that easily breaks apart. Look at that chocolate, right? Beautiful Montana Monster cookies. What I'm going to do with the rest of this dough is scoop this onto a piece of parchment paper, right? You could also use wax paper or just a cookie sheet. Scoop them onto the paper, throw them on a tray, throw them in the freezer overnight, right? And then tomorrow morning, I'll take them, throw them in a little zip top bag, and keep them in the freezer. So that way, if you have them frozen, I'm not going to eat all this cookie dough in one day, but the next time I want cookies, I'll preheat my oven to 350, take however many cookie frozen balls that I want, throw them on the tray, pop them straight in the oven. That's it. You don't have to thaw them first. They go straight from freezer to oven, okay? That's how a lot of the bakeries do it on a daily basis, just so you know. They're not making these things every day. A lot of the cookies are, the doughs are made and frozen and baked from frozen. They actually hold their shape really good when they are frozen dough. So that is our Montana Monster cookies. Like I said, nice, big, soft texture, right? You're looking for a really good, hearty cookie. Nice, light golden brown. Don't overbake them. Get them to just where you think that they're done and pull them out and let them finish on the tray for a good, 2-3 minutes before you try to put them onto a cooling rack to finish cooling. Okay? That's it.